Oh. In this episode of Cinema Swirl, we will be watching and reviewing The Mummy, brackets 1999, but over on the Patreon exclusive bonus show Cinema Swill, we will be watching and reviewing The Mummy 2017, you know, the Tom Cruise one. Cinema Swill is available exclusively for $5 OTP backers over at patreon.com/Cinema Swirl. If you join now, you'll get instant access to all 37 episodes of Cinema Swill, including things like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Van Helsing, and, as mentioned, The Mummy 2017, which is releasing right now at the same time as this one. Go to patreon.com/Cinema Swirl to find out more. Let's get swirling.
Cinema Swirl! I told you, it's a church pew. It doesn't recline. It's episode number 89, coming to you from the Chapel of Hollywood, California, kneeling down and doing all the prayers of famous movies that my OTP Sam Chaplin has not seen. I'm Cowboy Kevin, as always. Hello. Sam, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm Sam Chaplin.
Hey!
Or Chaplin, which is it's a thing. It's a religious thing, isn't it? A chaplain. That's the thing. So
would they always be giving you a guff on the playground going, "Oi, small church"? Would they be doing that at you? Like, because my friend Bobby Cathedral, they wouldn't let him hear the end of it. They wouldn't let him hear the end of it.
Especially when he brought in those cheddar cheese sandwiches. I mean, poor old Bobby.
Was the bishop going to sanctify you, you fucking prick? Yeah, usual stuff, you know, the usual. Sam, today's a very, very special dual-wielding nod the fans towards the Patreon special edition.
Yeah, we're driving up the numbers. Well, no, we're driving engagement towards the Patreon. We got a double whammy. You know, we did our Highlander double whammy.
That's it, because the Highlander double whammy came in the most natural way possible as we realised while recording and listening to the socials that we should do Highlander 2. During Highlander 2, we swore off the Highlander franchise forever, but what we didn't swear off was the good idea of having something from column A here, which is Cinema Swirl and fantastic, which could then have kind of almost a morbidly curious, obscene counterpart over behind a pay window.
There we go.
And that is why you all have decided today that we are going to do classic childhood VHS birthday party fodder, The Mummy.
Hey.
And then over on the Patreon, we're going to do The Mummy. And I'm excited for both iterations of this.
Yeah, The Mummy very much a VHS film. The Mummy 2017 very much a 4K Blu-ray film, HMV exclusive steelbook that no one's bought.
I literally have it rented on a streaming service and I have been assured it is in ultra high definition. And I've got all the settings ready to go on the television for that.
Lovely.
And we're going to be really looking at the very broad spectrum. When I say broad spectrum, I mean the smallest spectrum possible, the most narrow view of a Hollywood megastar as we pivot between Tom Cruise once again and real Hollywood leading hunk Brendan motherfucking Fraser in the house.
Yes.
And I can't get Sam to watch Fraser, but I can make him watch Brendan Fraser vis-a-vis the Cinema Swirl fan base. Good job voting for this one, everyone.
Very good choice, everyone. Thank you. It's between this, Ghost in the Shell, and Godzilla.
Oh, those are all very fine contenders. I think we could revisit this concept down the line.
We'll come back to some of those. We'll come back to them. But The Mummy, far and away, the absolute winner here. Good choice. I'm excited for this.
And for those of you who are wondering, it's nearly Valentine's Day and you're doing a movie about Mummy, my mother's birthday is on Valentine's Day, I'll have
there
you know.
we go. It all makes
And
sense.
the mammy wasn't available to watch, so we're doing The Mummy instead. So there it is. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, a couple of Christmases ago, I accidentally called my mum. And it's because Joe was there. And it was all awkward. 'Cause I know.
Oh, Kevin.
They took my passport off me. They wouldn't let me go back, which was awful. It was awful stuff. So, Sam, what do you know about... Firstly, let's talk broadest spectrum possible.
Okay.
Why a nasty old mummy comes shumbling into your pyramid? What are you going to do?
I'm going to say hello. How you doing? have you been all right?
As Mr. T said, treat your mummy right, didn't he? He
Yes,
said that,
exactly. Mummies as a scary monster have always seemed like they're very Saturday morning cartoons, are mummies, you know?
I mean, out of the original monsterish lineup,
Yeah.
mummies very much are the outliers there, aren't they? They're, like vampires, they're actually historical figures.
Yeah.
And B, we're the generation that was raised at watching crime-fighting dogs tug on a mummy's taping.
Yes.
And them spinning around.
Yeah.
And that happened in the Beano as well, and the Dandy. And I think that as a result that we, the millennials, and probably Gen Z as a result as well, never really took them as seriously as all that. Right?
No, I haven't taken them seriously. And you know what? If I did meet a mummy, as you've suggested, I would ask for their permission to unwrap them, as it were, because I think that would feel very satisfying to unfurl a mummy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're not unfurling, you're tugging it and then they spin around in a crazy, and sometimes there'll just be bones left over and other times there'll be nothing at all,
Right.
as if to say that the pharaohs didn't even exist.
And sometimes it'll be the janitor from the fun fair who will be under there, and you go, "Oh, what? It was you the whole time." Oh, bloody hell!
Now, was there any instances, Halloween's growing up or anything like that, mummy costumes, anything that you came into contact with?
You know what? I can honestly say, hand on heart, I don't think I've ever seen in the. I don't recall, Your Honour, having seen in the flesh a mummy costume ever in real life.
I've seen quite a few of them in like the living room of a house before people go out for Halloween.
Yes, it's not a going out one.
No, it's not. And what would usually happen is, it always happened at a university, didn't it? And it'd always be a boy who go, "Oh, you know what? I'm just going to wear my science lab coat and cover it in fake blood, and because that's my costume." And then someone go, "Well, I'm just going to cover myself in toilet paper and be a scary mummy." But no one I ever knew in university had a thick enough ply to actually commit to that. And what would happen is it would just kind of disintegrate, wouldn't it,
This is the university life. You're on a budget, you go cheap with your toilet paper, but you don't think that Halloween's on the horizon and you're going to need at least 3 ply, if not something somehow sturdy.
Whereas now, now I'm an adult, got responsibilities, I got the 3 ply, because I know Halloween is always around the corner, technically speaking, isn't it?
It's a big commitment, a mummy outfit. Mummy costume, it's hard to get right. You see, I've seen some people kind of half-arse it and do it a bit, they have a few bits hanging off.
Drape themselves in serviettes. It is not a mummy make, Sam. That's all. So, look, I want to know, how scary is it on the spectrum, on the ecometer, on the boorometer, as it were, which measures pressure and scare? What would you say would it rank?
I'm saying ranking pretty low, the mummy. I ain't afraid of no mummy. It's not one of the scary ones for me. I'm not scared of no mummy.
But you say this, and yet I, an intellectual, can look at the fact that you were doing a podcast called Cinema Swirl, and you've not even seen The Mummy, mate.
No.
And is that because you saw that VHS and you thought, I'm a bit scared of that? Bit scary. Have you been to Egypt? Have you been to Egypt?
No, I haven't been to Egypt.
These aren't criticisms against you, but these will be used against you, whether I'm determining if you're scared of a mummy, Now,
I don't know if this is an insensitive or controversial thing to say. It is a silly name for a monster. Is that all right to say? The mummy.
I respect mothers of all, particularly those who are buried in sarcophaguses, So that's me, Sam. I'm fifth wave feminist. That's what happens.
Guys, I don't respect mothers. Say what you want.
So tell me.
No respect.
What do you?
None.
No respect.
No.
Can't get no respect or give any respect. So, Sam, what is it that you know then about this classic movie, The Mummy?
Right.
I mean, The Mummy, we had Mummy fever for it. We had The Mummy Returns. We had the Scorpion King franchise. As a wrestling fan at the time, I was bombarded with Mummy media against my will. So how did you avoid it? What, if anything, do you know of this movie?
I know your friend and mine, the internet's pal, Brendan Fraser, is in this. I know that for a fact. I remember seeing his face everywhere.
He's having a bit of a
resurgence.
A moment.
Yeah. He's back now. Everyone's happy that he's doing well. There was a bit of cruel online shaming going on around Brendan Fraser a bit. But then there was a huge wave of support and love and admiration and goodwill towards Brendan. And he's seen that and responded to it. And everyone just feels very happy and comfy and warm as a result of that.
So what do you know Brendan Fraser for other than being defended voraciously online?
I think I've seen Tarzan with him in it. I think.
Tarzan?
I feel like I've seen some of it. Was he Tarzan?
George of the Jungle, man.
George of the Jungle. He was not Tarzan.
George of the Jungle is not Tarzan,
So maybe I haven't seen Tarzan with Brendan Fraser in it because it might not exist.
England, watch out for that goal.
As a child, I've seen him with his top off in a jungle. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah?
You have, yeah.
Pretty
we all
sure I've
have,
seen
but there
that.
you go.
And I may have seen him in some sort of romantic comedy.
Oh, you saw him in Scrubs, didn't you?
No, I never watched Scrubs, actually.
That's
Thank you.
genuinely shocking. That is genuinely shocking.
I don't like Scrubs. Or Friends.
Scrubs, which is basically Frasier for people who watch Lost instead of Twin Peaks. That's my...
No, get out. Get out. I will not have that kind of slander. Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks. Go and drink some coffee, all you Twin Peaks fans and your Frasier fans. That's all you care about.
Well, actually, I will maybe have a dry sherry after this. Sometimes I will have a little one after a pre-swirl, get in the mood for the movie.
Whereas me and the Lost Legends are getting fucking pints in, mate, and we're being awesome and having a good time and enjoying fun programs that aren't weird. They're fun weird.
So tell me, you know Brendan Fraser and his fun, weird ways.
Yeah.
And we know, and this is the thing, we're talking about, how we would have as kids, a lot of the stuff regarding to mummies wouldn't necessarily been gruesome stuff or very shocking. It was always feels like kind of a soft ghoul to mock and whatnot.
Yeah.
So this is obviously coming out now with a view, or at least knowing that that's the audience when this movie came out. So are you expecting a scary movie? Are you expecting a romp? Is this going to be like a fist pumper? Or is this going to be like a scare fest? What are you thinking?
One word, Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
Adventure.
Adventure.
I feel an adventure coming on.
You feel an adventure is forthcoming, you believe?
I think so. I don't doubt there'll be scary bits. And I assume the titular mummy, or indeed mummies, are or is the villain.
Well, actually, Sam, I'll have you know that when something scary happens in an adventure movie, it is officially classed as peril. That is not fear, it's peril. It's different, okay? There's a peril of wisdom for you now, okay? It's called peril when you are in a scary situation, but it's an adventure, okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes there might be mild peril you have to be aware of, okay?
I'm expecting at least mild peril, if not severe peril. But I think this is an adventure. I think this is going to be in the same realm as Indiana Jones,
But you didn't like Indiana Jones.
No.
So you don't think this is going to be fun? Are you going to enjoy this?
I think so. You know what? There's a wave of, much like around Brendan Fraser, there was a wave of support in the comments on the vote for The Mummy. People love The Mummy. It was on everyone's shelf. I think this was one of the last big VHS hits, I think this.
I honestly, this is one of the last movies I remember before being carted off to boarding school.
Right.
This was the last movies I remember. I swore we've talked about this before, but there was kind of a time period, it felt from the late 90s, between the ages of 8 and 12, where you and a few other children would all go to someone's house and a parent would take you to then rent a video.
Yes.
And there would be some sort of a chip dinner and you would all be put into a room and you get to watch the movie. And it was all like you were in charge because it's the kids getting to watch the movie.
Yeah.
And that was where Austin Powers was watched.
Yeah.
And that's definitely where The Mummy was watched. And I believe this was the last time I remember having that type of primary school carefree, being, as opposed to surly teenagers saying, "Mum, take us down to the video shop," as opposed to being like, "Yay, we're going to the video shop to rent Ernest is Scared Stupid because he's a fucking idiot."
You know what? I've had those experiences, but I've not had them around The Mummy. I don't know how I missed out on those.
I've not seen this movie since then.
Right, yeah. But you have good memories from then.
I have watched the sequel because it features a wrestler and I then had to go and do a commentary track for that for another podcast. And then I did another commentary track for the thing that came after it. So I'm actually quite excited to go back to basics.
Yeah.
You know, classic Mummy here, you know?
You don't want Too Mummy Too Furious. You want original Mummy, OG Mummy.
Exactly.
Actually, in my very, very paper-thin research for this, in terms of finding bad remakes to correspond with this, I'm sorry about this, I've learned something before I've watched the film. This is a remake of a previous Mummy movie. Well, there was an old Mummy.
Yeah, because it's Universal. This is Universal, right. You know, the monsters that they own. So technically, this is a remake of that, I guess, in the way that the other one we're doing is also technically a remake of that. It's just fucking soulless Hollywood executives grinding out bollocks up against a millstone to get a few drops out of it. And I can't wait to watch the movie. Let's head into the mailbag.
Welcome to the mailbag. Thank you. Thank you as ever for your questions, queries, comments into cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
All the socials.
At CinemaSwirl, I guess.
Yeah, mate, you know, or whatever. Our first message here, though, comes in from Jack, and this is into cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Subject line, new baby. Hi,
what?
mates. Yeah, good start. Hi, mates. So my better half is pregnant with our first child. Congratulations, Jack. And naturally, I want to throw my child headfirst into podcasts. My question is, which episode of Cinema Swirl/Swell should I place my newborn first? Cheers, Jack. Well, Jack, I don't think you should play any of them, really.
No, because there's a lot of cursing in it, isn't there?
Yes.
And what would happen then is that you'd get a child who would be, where is Jack from? Because if they're English, you're going to get a weird mix then of like, you got the England and then you've got Ireland in there as well. And it'll be loved by neither tribe after that then, because it'd be all like, for fuck's sake, score a bloody goal, mate. And like, what's that? I know what's that like.
It'll be culturally confusing to listen to. Although, here's what I would say. I can't remember which is true about babies, whether they respond to low voice tones or high voice tones better. But if it's low, go for the first few episodes. Because the soothing, sultry tones of me, Star Wars, is going to go down in absolute... It'll put the baby to sleep.
It's back when I used to do this podcast with a soft-spoken BBC Radio 6 DJ, and then Sam came in to fill in the gap later on. Actually, no, I do have an episode that I could recommend. And I'm not just going to say go over to patreon.com/cinemaswirl and you can sign yourself up and your newborn child. No, instead I'm going to say go with the Les Mis episode because that's got the most singing in it.
Yeah.
And much like plants, if you sing to a baby, it'll be less stupid.
What? What I would say, Jack, and this really feels like I'm tooting my own horn here, just play them the music. It's quite, it's a bit nursery rhymey, isn't it? The Cinema Swirl theme. I think that would go down well with a baby.
And look, all I'm saying is this, folks. I'm not trying to take Sam's hard work here on the theme and the bed and let's go do the Cinema Swirl music and all the contextual remixes and all that. But look, the episode is The Mummy, and if Mother Care or any motherly brands are looking to get music to use in an ad to show a child taking their first steps, perfect. Isn't it though? It is though, isn't it?
Yeah.
All babies are little explorers, and you can play that music so you're like, oh yeah, exploring, as opposed to, oh no, the baby's going to die by exploring. It'll put your heart at ease.
Yes.
Get in touch. Mother Care still exists, right? I don't have another Maplin situation on my hands. I'm not hitching this wagon to another heaving, bloated, dead corpse on the high street, expecting it to take me over the hill. No way, man.
We'll try and get Mother Care to follow us. Jack, good news, by the way. Our next episode, we are covering Coco Melon, so you should be all gold for that. I've heard of Coco Melon because the dads at work fancy the animated teacher from Coco Melon. There you go.
Oh, the dads at work. You mean the perverts at work? Yeah,
those horrible perverts at work.
Those horrible perverts.
So thank you very much, Jack. And once again, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Fabulous news. Next question comes in from Tristan, who writes, will we ever see a goth in secondary school swirl/swill featuring the likes of The Crow and Queen of the Damned
asking for a friend.
Oh, baby!
I'd love that because for my entire secondary school existence, I was not a goth, but I was very much goth adjacent.
This came up once or twice before
Yeah.
in the past. I almost came close to pitching Asha in St. Stephen's Green Shopping Centre to support us in ways that Maplin and Mothercare never really could. And I think it would be fun to have a focused slice of past looking at what was a very important part of all of our personalities, be it adjacent or in our heart and soul as we live and breathe.
You know what I've been thinking about goths and being a goth and my history with goths? I would hang around with them all the time. Some of my best friends were goths. I never was a goth, and I don't feel like I can be a goth now, you know?
No, that ship has sailed,
That ship has definitely sailed. In my 30s, I can't become a goth. I'm not saying you can't be a goth in your 30s.
No, and you could also have a resurgence if you were.
But it's too late for me to suddenly become a goth, which is a real shame.
It's in the same way that I couldn't become a skater now, but you could, you know? You've always been a skater.
Previously skated.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly. You know what? I genuinely agree with that. No, anyone can skateboard, anyone can be a goth. I just don't think I can be a goth at this point. If I dye my hair black, I don't know.
I just love in one sentence you went dead serious from being like, no, genuinely I couldn't become a goth now, but in the same breath you're like, but I am a skater, and that is like who I am.
Ride or die, mate. I am a skater. I will always be a skater. That's part of who I am. That's my identity. But thank you, Tristan. And I think, you know what? I think we should do something like that.
I think that's a very good idea. We'll do a specific mailbag that is of a gothic nature and whatnot.
A goth bag.
And we'll go back and we'll listen to the Nightmare Before Christmas episode as well, so we will.
Yeah, well, when I said goth bag there, I immediately pictured a fucking Jack Skellington, the backpack that's got his little
I think you're
face.
just slagging people off. Don't call them goth bags, they're the listeners.
So thank you very much, Tristan, for your question. And yes, I think we should do that. Final question here comes in from Jamie, who writes, in light of the brackets incredible new Beatles documentary, which bands/albums would you like to see a similar film of? Jamie writes, for example, I would choose Fleetwood Mac recording Rumours, so I'd like to witness how that band actually managed to coexist in such a hostile environment. Now, I don't think you haven't watched Get Back, have you?
No, because I've not found a spare 80 hours in my time, And I honestly, of course I like the Beatles. Everyone likes the fucking Beatles. Like, obviously, don't lie and say you don't like the Beatles, you freak. No, I don't like the Beatles and I don't like food either. Come on, get over it, Oh, are you worried about the big bully who's going to come and beat you up for liking the Beatles? How about all the old men who'll come and beat you up for not liking the Beatles? Be scared of them.
Exactly.
I don't like music docs that much. And it probably stems from a period of time where I was a lot more into music. And long-time listeners of my podcast know that I, peace and love, simply have no more time for music in my life. So,
I can't get over, by the way. I sometimes find myself thinking about that, and it's just I don't have time for music anymore.
Look, it does, and it works great as a bit and a joke, but also it is also genuinely a massive time saver because all you listen to your albums. I'm listening to the latest, fucking wrestling bollocks that I have to fucking stick into my ears.
Sounds like a real time saver.
Look. Modern times, if you could give me a behind the scenes about how the guy behind the SNES Drunk channel makes his chillaxing SNES remixes, 3 hours and everyone's a chill banger, I want to be in the room with that guy. But I have this very crystal clear memory of a time where I cared about music more than any other time in my life, which would have been 18, 19, where I just went to university. I'd gotten a music show on the radio. My brother was in a band. All my brother's friends were all in bands. Some of those bands were getting, national exposure, and I got to go to gigs and bands, music. Very excited. And at the peak of that, I saw, I think it was Loud, Quiet, Loud, which is a documentary about the Pixies, and I love the Pixies. They're one of my favourite bands. I've not listened to the Pixies in 5 years. I love the Pixies. They're one of my favourite bands, but I've not listened to them in 5 years. And I just watched that documentary at the height of my obsession. Love this band. They'd come back together. And it just filled me with a weird sense of I don't care to know that one of my favourite bass players is just having a rubbish time.
Yeah.
Or the drummer is like, well, if we didn't do this, I guess I'd just be working a normal job. Or I want to see fucking Frank Black lying on his bed listening to affirmations because he's all broken up inside. So, like, you know...
You don't want to see how... They're such bad communicators, by the way, Pixies, in that documentary.
I know. It's... You want to know how your favorite podcast had ever fallen apart? It's probably because they communicate like the people of the Pixies. But I did, off the back of someone telling us when we did Bill and Ted and the sequel, Alex Winters did this amazing Frank Zappa documentary. And I love Frank Zappa. And it was just a great doc about him and his career. It wasn't like a behind-the-scenes thing, because I felt if I saw a behind-the-scenes thing of Frank Zappa, you know, throwing people down the stairs or whatever it is he used to do and making them eat lima beans to get Captain Beefheart to record something, I don't know if I want to see that. I feel like the more I know about bands, the worse I'll feel about them. So best leave it to one side for now. Peace and love. I've simply too much to do.
What I would say is, recently I watched, and maybe I should have saved this for Swirl or something, but I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen Some Kind of Monster, the Metallica documentary?
Now, is that when they make their greatest album say Anger?
Yes. It's fucking fascinating. They're all insufferable, apart from one of them. But it's great. It's great. It's really interesting documentary. But
I figured you're a connoisseur of music docs.
I do like a music doc. I do really like a music doc.
Jig is one of my all-time faves with the Brian Jonestown Massacre. I assume you've seen that.
No, I haven't seen that. I should see that.
A reverse Swirl, though, for musical docs, I would definitely be down for at some point, you know?
In answer to your question, Jamie, and I've thought long and hard about this, there was an MTV album launch episode on Blink-182's self-titled album where you saw the process of them recording that. And it skips over a lot of stuff, but they definitely had...
You want the 8-hour takes. Yeah.
Yeah. Give the footage over to Peter Jackson, have him do that for Blink-182. I would be fucking fascinated.
Actually, and I'll change my answer. The same for the same MTV album thing that they did for Results May Vary from Limp Bizkit. Which features Fred Durst on the guitar going, MTV, y'all know the thing that I suck. And the problem is that he can't play guitar and sing at the same time, so he keeps stopping to do his self-parody. Motherfucker!
You would watch 8 hours of Limp Bizkit trying to record that album. That'd be amazing.
I've listened to 8 hours of Limp Bizkit in 2021 alone, so I'm game for anything.
Exactly. I do wonder if bands are now consciously like filming their recording processes more to try and get back themselves in a few years, if that makes sense. To get their own get back.
Dirt on each other, like.
I don't know.
Can you imagine? Every instance I've ever heard of anyone recording something, tensions are always mad fucking high and everyone had a fucking shit time. So let's see a documentary about that, please.
So thank you again for all your questions into cinemaswirl@gmail.com. That's it for the mailbag.
That's it for cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Sam, we're about to dive headfirst into potentially an adventure.
Yeah.
Just give me a couple of bullet points. What's going to happen? What's a typical mummy adventure? What's going to happen with this no-good mummy?
Right. I'm going down the Indiana Jones kind of route here. I haven't seen The Mummy. I don't know what happens in The Mummy, but someone takes something from an old tomb. It awakens something, curses something. They have to run around. I was really excited for The Mummy until I just tried to guess what the plot would be.
Yeah, you're fucking being a downer now. This ain't shit
around. They've nicked a thing, but
fucking sand everywhere.
But I'm excited. I'm very excited for this. I do, because people love it, and so I think that love is kind of rubbing off on me, and I'm excited to see what's so good about it.
Do you think people love it because of their nostalgia for it and the time it came out? Or do you think people love it because of what it is?
Do you think this is like the goth thing, and if I want to enjoy The Mummy, I have to have enjoyed The Mummy when I was a child, and I can't suddenly start. There's not really been a Mummy resurgence, has there? You know?
No, but is there a Mummy window? We might find this out.
I'm curious and I'm excited.
Curious, excited. Let's go do a cinema swirl. We're back. Sam, initial gut reactions to The Mummy.
Way, that was fun. Way, it's a wayer. It's a full way.
You did a little lean into the mic there.
Because Because I wanted a kind of deep way. Yeah, it's not way, it's way. It's like way.
It did have that kind of come here to me, little boy, and I'll tell you a secret. What's that, older man? Way. That's how you are to communicate with the youth. So you had a good time.
Yeah, and if I get to be a sort of elderly uncle figure and meet any small children, I'm just going to say, come here to me. Way, and then I'll have a weird reputation, but it'll be worth it because that is fun.
It will be worth it, Sam, because you'll be ahead of the game, because in our day, older relatives would give you a 10 pence piece or a penny farthing, and they'd say, go on now to the shop and buy an ice cream. Yeah. And we won't be able to do that because we won't have the Venmo details of our younger family members. So a way is a way to do that very cheaply.
What I'm giving has more value. It's the spirit of banter that I'm impassing to the youth.
It's the cryptocurrency of banter, Sam, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
It's worth what you want it to be worth.
So we're in far-flung Egypt.
Yes.
In the heady days of the Roaring '20s.
And I spy with my CGI we're in the roaring days of 1999 because this sweeping shot of Egypt in full HD, full scrim, it is a little bit, it's good. It's good for the time.
Yeah, but Egypt doesn't exist anymore, so they had to do that in 1999, didn't they? They had to kind of do a composite, and there was no Google Maps either, or World Earth View. So that is just, CGI at its best.
It looks like a really good level, is what I would say, for Egypt in this.
It does have the benefit of being in 1999, of being that pre-millennium era of bad CGI, that I feel you're probably liable to be a little bit kinder to it than something like, say, Van Helsing that we did over on the Swill, where it was like 2003, and there's genuinely no excuse. Your time wasn't taken up preparing for the Millennium Bug. Why is the CG so bad? These guys here, they were double shifts, crunch round the clock to get this done, and be Y2K compliant at the same time. So I'm impressed by the visuals of 1999.
I'm not slagging them off, but you can see that it is 1999 effects-wise.
And you can also tell it's 1999 in just the general kind of sense of things, in the fact that you're introduced to the pharaoh, the high priest, and the pharaoh's mistress, who is wearing a thong and see-through clothes, because it's 1999, baby! And I am 40% sure none of these people in this scene or any of the scenes in ancient Egypt are Egyptian, but there we are now.
But, we very quickly, very broad strokes, get introduced to these characters. There's Imhotep, the high priest. So was he having an affair with the...
Get this, see, he was only going out with the pharaoh's guma, and that is a big no-no. You do not cross that line in ancient Egypt. Because the pharaoh, he has the racket on the pyramid building contracts pretty tight. Like, he gets all these no-show jobs and the slave jobs. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is just corrupt as fuck.
Oh!
No, that's Pharaoh. Pharaoh is who was there now, who was doing...
Yeah, so Imhotep and the pharaoh's mistress, who does have a name, but I can't remember it. I feel bad about that. But they're very much in love. He can resurrect the dead, or so he says. So he gets arrested and taken away.
He's got big Rasputin vibes to him, hasn't he, old Imhotep here now? And here we are now, within 5 minutes... We've gotten sexy ladies. Yeah. We've gotten plots involving murder, resurrection, and an affair. And this is the point your dad turns around and is like, what's the old fuddy-duddy Universal Monster Pictures now? Huh? Who's old now, little boy?
So it...
Franchise.
It's setting up an important plot point here, but it kind of rushes us through it. That she's dead, she's killed herself because she knows he'll be able to resurrect her. He's dead, and all of the priests are all dead. They've been killed by the pharaoh and his men.
It's such a great start for Imhotep and the gang, is it?
No, there's some real, Egyptian traditions that I think, and again, I don't know if this is right for me to say, are a bit gruesome.
Are you an Egyptologist, Sam? Is that what you're telling me?
But if you're taking someone's organs out and putting them in separate jars against their will, that's not on. All right, I'm going to say it, that's not on.
And also, if you're looking to make haggis and you take out all the organs and then you put them in separate jars, no, it all needs to be within the lining of the stomach.
Yeah.
In the casing.
Exactly.
That's another mistake they made.
That was
here.
The Scottish mummification process, which I think is good and proper. So Imhotep does resurrect his girlfriend a bit, but then the Pharaoh's guards stop it. Right, so he...
Lapsed Catholic over here needs to know how you resurrect someone a bit. What's that like?
She gets a bit resurrected, a little bit, Just...
but not the full thing,
Yeah. If you're cooking something, you have to kind of like sear the outside of it, but then she's not been heated through,
Oh, yeah, I see. I get you. So the ritual is pretty much beefed up then, because they all get spotted by the Pharaoh's guys. Pharaoh's guys take Imhotep's guys, and they all get mummified alive. And I was like, wow. That's, of all the ways to prepare a body after death to happen to you while alive, it's not a great one because they stick a hot poker up your nose and all that jazz.
Nice. I mean, tongue's out for the Pharaoh. Imhotep gets his tongue out. I think he gets his eyes out. And then they pour Beatles on him, mate. It's proper I'm a Celebrity Bush Tucker trial, this. This is not on. I expected Out and Deck to come around the corner. No, it only would have been
if they were not native to Egypt, those Beatles that they poured everywhere carelessly,
So this lad Imhotep, he's immortal, but he's sealed in a sarcophagus, mummified, covered in beetles forever. And I was covered in beetles forever when I watched Get Back, because it's long. It's a long film.
Long time there.
Yeah, and title card, The Mummy.
We cut to the present, which is also, ironically enough, the past. It is the Roaring Twenties, and we do have our title character of Brendan Fraser. Of course he's
title
Rick.
Character. The Brendan Fraser.
The original title of this is Brendan Fraser. The sequel is Brendan Fraser, Returns, and then Curse of the Dragon Tomb.
I've always referred to this as Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. I think that's how it should be referred to. Yeah, he's here after a very cool title card, I must say. Just to quickly mention, the letters are all wrapped up in the mummy wrapping, and they break free, and it looks cool. Yeah, Brendan's here. He's in the French Foreign Legion, I think.
Which I knew two lads in university who, when they had a few drinks in them, they'd start rambling on about how they were going to, after they graduated, go and join the French Foreign Legion, because I think you can still do that. They'll kind of take they'll take all comers, including an American, which is what Rick is.
Yes, Brendan's character Rick O'Connell,
typical American. Join the French Foreign Legion. Come join the French Foreign Legion. You'll see the world. You'll see the sights. You'll see the culture. You will shoot a lot of horses. I know it's the A-team way, that if baddies are coming at you in a Jeep, you kind of shoot the tires and wah, and they'll get up going, well, what are we going to do now then? Are you fucking insured? And then they walk away. But they pretty much kneecap 1,000 horses here, the French Foreign Legion. They're scared to shoot a man, so they're we'll take it out on the horses.
Look, it was the Roaring 20s, and then this film was made in the Roaring 90s. And back in those days, mate, it was pre-horse meat scandal. You could do what you want with horses. No one was bothered by it. There's some really good action here as he's being kind of forced to retreat. His little mate Benny is with him. He's run away like a comedy coward. He's retreating. His opposition, massive. He gets cornered after a lot of cool shooting. You know what? Brendan Fraser.
Big scale. I like it.
Big scale. And he's a very good, very charismatic, very fun, believable leading man. He is cool in this.
Yes, he is. He's fucking great.
Yep.
He is really good at what he does. Mm-hmm. I remember now, there was quite a few 90s romps that he was at the helm of, where they kind of leaned more into, Californian Man and stuff like that, where they kind of leaned into his comedy stylings and whatnot. But he has that nice mixture of cheesy action hunk, but he's got a little bit, he has the thing that Tom Cruise doesn't have, which is he has a little sparkle of, I think he would be an alright lad to meet. He wouldn't be a big fucking massive weirdo, Here's my hot take for you, Sam.
Yeah.
Fellow PlayStation owner.
Uh-huh.
On and on people go about how Uncharted is Uncharted is just, isn't that great? Nathan Fillion it should be, and it should be Tom Holland, other people apparently were saying. But people always compare that to Indiana Jones, and I think that the Mummy is a lot more, because Indiana Jones is a fucking ornery old bollocks, whereas this lad here, he's all fucking high fives and nice grins and raised eyebrows. And also, he spends a good 60% of this movie pointing a gun or guns at someone.
And they're cool looking guns. He's got a cool outfit.
Yeah.
He's Brendan Fraser. The comedy, he was in loads of comedies, as you've mentioned. But this character, although he is funny and there are comedy moments, he's not treated as a silly character. Quite
No, he doesn't have
rightly.
any goofs, like, he doesn't, like, slip and fall on his arse
No.
or anything like that. He's treated as the cool 90s action star that he is.
Yes, and it absolutely works. He gets cornered here by a big load of lads with guns. He kind of accepts his fate. He closes his eyes, ready to get shot to bits. But the men all run away, and that's because behind him, big statue of one of the Egyptian statues, one of the ones, a statue is whispering, you will die to him. And so all these lads are running away.
This is when, like, we get our first of many great shots involving sound effects.
Yes.
Where I did spend a lot of the movie wondering if, like, this was, like, leftover effects for the Spider-Man movie that did not get made in the 90s that was going to have Sandman in it. But the effects of the sand were generally some of the better effects that they did.
Yes.
And the big face coming out of sand, even though it is basically designed solely for the trailer, I think it was very cool and, dare I say, borderline iconic.
I think it was as well. It gets revealed where he's standing, this big sand face. You know what? I want to touch the sand face. I want to touch sand. You know, it sounds like this moving. It's all 3D. I want to feel what that's like. I want to touch it.
Which bit? Which bit?
Which bit of the face?
Which bit of the face?
Oh, just like a cheek or something. Just just dip into
I'm
a sand
going right
face.
for the sand eye. I want to know what that's made of.
Brendan gets away. Great. He's out of here. Now, 3 years after that, we're travelling in time. Oh my God, we're travelling. 3 years.
Are we?
A little bit. 3 years after the iconic Sandface, Mr. Sandface, Rachel Weisz, who I refer to throughout this as Rachel Weisz, is in a library.
What's she from exactly? Because I just wrote Evie, so because that's her character's name, and I respect the art form, except all the other times I don't.
I might do a quick find and replace on Rachel here and change it to Evie. What else has she been in? She's been in loads of stuff, but not really anything I've seen. But I know of her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's in a library. She's on one of those big library ladders.
Didn't I tell you this would happen? Didn't I tell you there would be Pearl in this movie?
This was real mild Pearl.
Oh, look at you at home. Oh, they're talking about Pearl again, clutching your pearls. Aren't you all fucking sensitive about it? Like, get over it, okay? She's in Pearl. Ladder Pearl. The worst type.
There's a bit where she's on this ladder and she's leaning over too far to put a book back. And the ladder kind of tilts so that it's balanced in the middle. But the noise it makes, the Foley for it, which is meant to be the ladder sort of creaking and standing up straight, just sounds like she's done a big funny guff. It does make it like...
The Foley on this movie is oftentimes, the nice thing I could say about it is it's readily identifiable.
Yeah.
As in, they use noises for certain actions like guns, doors opening, the glimmer of jewellery, where later, probably in the same year, someone would have went, I think people have heard this one just a bit too much, but those were not the concerns of this movie when it was being made. She is an Egyptologist herself.
Yes.
She speaks the ancient tongue and she knows all about the curses and all that jazz. And then in comes the boss and he's like, talking of fucking curses, your bloody curse. It's like a plague of pearls since you've come into my library, young lady. We find out that her parents were wealthy benefactors.
Yeah.
And basically, because it's English, I'm just assuming that you went over and colonized that as well, probably. I don't know.
That's probably one of our things. She's in trouble because she's knocked over all the bookshelves when she was faffing around on the ladder. And again, like, satisfying. I'd want to push over a big shelf if it knocked over loads of other big shelves. It would be like a domino effect thing. That does look fun. Big scale dominoes.
Does.
But if they were important books. And so she's now sneaking around this museum, trying to really quiet, trying to like tidy up, find some stuff, goes over to a little sarcophagus, and there was a legit jump scare.
Did it make you jump and go, ah?
Why just went, from Taskmaster New Year Treat Zone, John Hannah, who's in this, who I know from Taskmaster New Year's Treat 2020.
And his character is called John as well, which is convenient for this.
Very convenient for me.
I wrote about John here, the character, not the actor, is that if he was around in modern times, it would only be a matter of time before he was cancelled. Because he is the apparently useless, do-nothing son of the very wealthy parents, brother to Evie, and seems to do nothing other than get drunk and have a bally good time.
It's a bit of best of British, this. Bit of best of British, and I'm glad to see that. So he's jumping out to be a goofball and spook his sister, which she's not happy with, but he has a special box thing.
He's happened upon a puzzling box.
Yes.
Which leads them to question that potentially a legend of old is true.
That's a good point. When you say happened upon, if a posh English person says they've happened upon something, and this turns out to be the case here, it means they've nicked it.
Yeah,
it has been stolen.
Like when the ye happened upon all of Ireland, for instance. You know, remember that?
I've happened
when
upon
that happened.
This. Yeah.
And then if you're caught red-handed in the middle of it, you go, "It's a happening, ladies and gentlemen." You run away.
Part of a happening.
And you start clapping. Hey!
So he gives her this box. It's a map. It's leading to Hamunaptra, City of the Dead.
City of the Dead. Or City of the Treasure, depending on your point of view.
Yeah. Dead full of treasure, this city. The museum owner, right, and I knew this was a bit suspect, accidentally burned off the bit about this lost city. Very convenient that happens when he's presented with that evidence. Hey, Omid Jalili's in this.
Yeah!
Hey!
Not so bad.
Yeah.
This is around the first time of his many big Hollywood appearances. Never left the stand-up behind him during those days. I always appreciate that. Thought it was pretty good that you could turn on Channel 4 and see him on an episode of Black Books or something, and then he's here in Hollywood, California, doing, honestly, much the same character he does in most of his stand-up and most of his appearances. I found out as well recently that he is cancelled in the great country of Wales because he did a tweet in 2019 where he's like, "Get a load of all these consonants. Imagine having a stutter and spelling this." And I'm like, they're having none of it. And that's it. He's persona non grata. So I'm not trying to cause any beef with our Welsh listeners here, of which I'm sure there are many. And all I'll say is that I wish to remain politically neutral on this hot button topic because I really enjoy seeing him in this movie.
I did as well. I thought it was nice to see him. And he's a prison guard. It turns out that John stole the little box map thing from long hair Brendan Fraser, who's imprisoned for some unnamed trouble that he got himself in.
I assume it's looking like a brigand.
He's very, very scruffy now. Now, Kevin, this has never before happened in the history of Cinema Swirl. Within a film we've watched, there is a mention of Tiffin. And I was fucking delighted. There's a little bit there where John is like, why don't you go sniff out a spot of Tiffin? And I was like, yeah, Tiffin in a Cinema Swirl film for the first time. This is a landmark moment, watershed moment.
Now, here's the question, though, because I know in certain parts of India and possibly Pakistan, Tiffin is used as a little
storage thing.
Box. So I get tweets probably once a week from someone who passes by a particularly good takeaway that's like, we do Tiffin as well.
Yeah.
And it'd be pretty rubbish if you went in thinking you're going to polish off your nice 3-course Indian meal with a nice sweet and then you get a lunch afterwards. You'd be fucked. You wouldn't be going out that door.
He says a spot of Tiffin. That
spot of Tiffin.
I think he's after a biscuit there. I think he wants biscuit, I reckon.
In the 20s? In Egypt?
Well, maybe it is. Oh, look,
if you know any 100-year-old people happen to be around at the time, let us know. Let us know.
If you've got any Egyptian Tiffin, send it in to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. But just to have a speaking character in a film that we've watched say Tiffin meant a lot to me.
Nice. It is nice. It's about time Tiffin got a look in after all this needless Pepsi fucking propaganda we seem to get in all the movies we watch.
Pepsi's been in every fucking film. You can't move for Pepsi in the films we watch. So Brendan's telling Evie that he was at Hamunaptra and found that box there. And there's already a bit of I say romantic tension between them. There's something there.
There's something there in that you can correctly identify the main woman and the main man in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's 1999. So whatever adventure they're going on, it's building up to a kiss. And Ahmed is given basically this big fucking choice he has to make because he has to negotiate. He's about to hang my man Rick here. So you have to negotiate with him. He has to decide, are you going to hang Brendan Fraser or hang out with your mates and go do treasure hunting? And I know it's crazy that even in movies set before Pepsi was even a thing.
Yeah. Post-Tiffin, pre-Pepsi.
The spirit of Pepsi is in there, isn't it?
Yeah. So Brendan said he knows where this city is and says to Evie, look, if you want me to take you there, save my life because I'm off to get hanged. And so she's basically having an eBay bidding war with Omid here for Brendan Fraser's life. And look, I know it's big money back then, and it's still big money now, but something about saying 200 quid seems a bit harsh for Brendan. I know that was big money. I know it was. I know it is now. But like, give you 200 quid if you don't kill Brendan Fraser here.
Could do better than that now. Come on.
The bidding goes up to 500. He still gets hanged, but his neck doesn't break. So he's there strangling to death, as Ahmed is calling him a filthy, godless son of a pig. But look, the negotiation changes, and I'm sure you've experienced this if you're trying to sell anything online. It goes from just monetary value to a kind of weird trade.
Oh, you're trying to fucking... You know exactly what you're doing. You're trying to fucking bait me now. Because I'm the fucking mug who's been trying to sell a PlayStation 4 for 40 days and 40 nights. And I was legitimately offered £80 and a tin of Quality Street from some fucker on Facebook. And it's the same dingo. I get... This is what happens, right? If it's not a spam one where someone is like, yeah, I will buy it for you, but can you go online and fill out a money order from the 50s first and give it to me?
Yeah.
Bullshit. And the one I always get now is, yeah, I'll give it to you for way less than it's worth. And then you go, but it's worth a bit more than that. And then you go, well, I've got kids. I don't know about fucking PlayStations, do I? Fuck you. I've been told to fuck off officially. Officially, and right, I've been podcasting. This is my 9th year of podcasting, right?
Wow.
And I know I've ruffled my fair share of feathers in my time, Sam. But I've officially been told to fuck off more than people who don't know how to barter on Facebook than have not liked my opinions about wrestling, movies, and wrestling.
Well, it's because no one offered you 25% of the findings from Hamanuptra. That's what they should have offered you, because that is enough for Brendan Fraser's life. And no one gets told to fuck off. Well, someone gets hanged, which is kind of...
Yeah, well, no one is fucking insulted and shamed by being offered Quality Street. I'd literally eat a tin of those monstrous scarab beetles instead of fucking Quality Street. Because you know there'd be at least one decent one in there. Like one of the Beatles would be caramel or something, you know. Not a fucking chewy coin that'll remove your teeth.
Brendan's free, right? He's been let go. And so he's now coming with them on a boat to go and find this treasure.
But they're not alone, Sam. They're not alone.
No.
And you were mentioning this the other day on a recording we were doing, how you liked the movie Rat Race.
Yes, yes.
Oh, goodness, if there wasn't a little bit of... Oh, we're
all coming together.
We're all trying to go and do this cursed mission together. Yeah. And I did particularly like that even though it was an American movie, they still portrayed Americans in the 20s with all the, sure, look at them over there now, the Americans.
Oh, the Americans,
I bet you're all yee-haw and bourbon and guns and all that. And pretty much it is exactly that now.
The romance plot is kind of ramping up a bit because Evie's saying, he's a filthy, rude, complete scoundrel. And then when Brendan turns up with his haircut and his nice suit, she changes her tune. So off they go on their big adventure with Ahmed, with the Americans. She says the word flim-flam. I just want to acknowledge that I love flim-flam. As an oldie-timey, like...
Flim-flam's a lot less aggressive than poppycock, isn't it?
It is. It's a load of old flim-flam. She doesn't want to be flim-flammed by this. But off they go. He makes a bet with these boorish Americans that he'll be the first one to find the stuff.
And Benny's with the Yanks as well now, so he is.
Yes, he's teamed up with them to direct them to where they're going. And that's Brendan's little mate Benny from the Foreign Legion. So they both know where this is. Brendan's whipping out all his weapons in front of Evie, showing her all this stuff, because he knows what's out there is, in a word, evil.
Yeah, but he knows it's all like sand and shit, so why is he going here with his guns? Will you shoot the sand, you big galoot?
What would you take with you if your enemy was sand?
Hoover.
Like Ghostbusters, right? Like a big kind of thing that you could just suck up all the sand. Yeah.
Luigi that shit. Maybe a flashlight if there are ghosts as well, you know.
Yes.
But other than that, I'm grand with a Hoover, you know. Send a Roomba, I'll stay at home. I don't give a shit.
Lob a Roomba out there. Go on.
Yeah, you can strap the swag onto it and then press the dock button and I'll be waiting at home. Collecting the cream, mate. That's me, yeah?
Evie says, why did you kiss me when you stole a kiss earlier? I was about to be hanged. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Brendan, come on, mate.
Oh, we've all heard the I was about to be hanged defense, man, all right? It doesn't fucking work in 1920 or 2020, all right? It doesn't work.
He throws Benny overboard, by the way, which is kind of played off as like a fun little goof. But that's quite harsh.
I've fallen off about not fun. It's not fun.
No.
Didn't appreciate that. Didn't appreciate that at all, actually, as a matter of fact. I like how incredible, not violent, because it's not as if you see gore or stuff like that, but I kind of felt the same way about watching this fight scene as I see someone who's like really good at an action video game, in that there was particular brutal quality to it, where he immediately is dual wielding, which I like that.
Yeah.
Is that he's like, this situation calls for 2 guns immediately. Just like guys coming and going blah with a sword. He's like John burns a man alive, and it is admirable that the movie plays it up for yucks, because he's like, oh dear old boy, you fall into some fire. Oh, spot and bother, old chap. Self-immolation, is it?
So is the enemy here the Magi, who are sworn to protect the...
Yes.
They're the guys who are protecting...
The baddies are technically actually
They're kind of the goodies.
They want people to stay away so
yes.
they don't disturb what happens underneath that tomb.
There's fun dual-wielding bang, 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 bang. There's proper adventure and caper music here. It's all like swashbuckling, good time, adventure-y stuff.
And like, fire's never fun, Sam, right? Fire's always serious and fire's always dangerous. But we can all get around the table and say that, generally speaking, a big old-timey boat on fire is the funnest, safest way to enjoy a massive fire.
I think so, yeah.
It's on a river, isn't it?
You can all just jump off. You can all just jump off. You're surrounded by water. He chucks Evie overboard. The map gets burnt, but he's like, relax, I'm the map. It's all up here. The old-fashioned reloading thing of like hitting the what do you call it?
Hit the hammer fast. I remember Outlaws on the PC. You could press a special button to go.
Love that thing. The slapping of the hammer. Give me that all day long. And then so it's all like calamitous. The fucking boat's on fire. They're all falling off. Everyone's being chucked everywhere. And then we cut to they're all on dry land. They're all right. They're where they need to be now. Fine.
Benny's got some horses, but he's also a fucking idiot. So they have the advantage over him still.
Yes.
And they get sorted with the thinking man's horse, aka camels.
Have you ever ridden a camel?
I have ridden a camel.
I've ridden a camel. It's nice, isn't it?
I've ridden a camel. It's funny, I was watching Nathan For You the other night. I watched that a bajillion times. It was putting on a random episode, and I heard him it was the episode about the horses, and they were talking about how, over a certain weight limit you can't ride a horse.
Oh yes.
And I'm like within the 15 to 20 pound range of not being able to ride a horse, apparently.
Yeah.
So the fact that I think camels would probably be a better job. The idea that I know that I can gorge and become much fatter than I am now and still rock a
get
camel
about on camelback.
That's fine,
Yeah.
And I'll be there on my camel going, oh, you got a horse there, that's interesting. You're gonna go take it for a drink, are you? Yeah. You'll get sick of that, mate.
So they've got camels. They're going through the desert. I tell you what, the colours in these nighttime desert scenes. Oh, yes. Deep blues, rich reds. Yes, please.
A lot of the kind of the actiony movies of the later 90s, I feel, struggled to bring back the nice colour palettes of the brights. It just feels, I don't want to watch no fucking grey, dank, dark movie. And I get that we have to go into mummies, tombs and all that. And that's fine later on.
Yeah.
But boy, I often will stick on just desert footage, on YouTube as a background thing to have on when I'm working usually. I fucking love a good desert shot, let me tell you.
It's rich, isn't it? A desert shot. It's rich. It's got a gooey texture of an image that. Yes, please. Benny and the Americans, which were a great band, they're here. And the old city of the dead / city of loads of treasure, mate, appears because of the sun or something. I don't know why it suddenly appears.
My understanding of it was there not being a city was a mirage.
Right, okay. And so
and the rest of it was actually there.
There is a city. Off they all go, like Rat Race, chasing towards this big city. I wrote down here, Brendan has such a good, handsome, but funny leading man face. I can't remember what that was in reference to, but it bears repeating that he's got a good face. One of
the many times he turns and goes, and like gives a little fucking look to the camera is fucking great. He is one of the more unique looking leading men that we've had on this. Yeah. And I like it.
But I think he's classically handsome. I think we maybe forget that.
He is, but he looks like he's been designed by Pixar or something in this movie. Like he has he has friendly features. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. But I don't think that's a bad thing.
Big round eyes.
Yeah.
And yes, I can confirm for those listening at home that Brendan Fraser has and always will have kind eyes.
He absolutely does. The baddie Americans, they're proper cliched baddies because like they're led by a woman. What does a woman know? Whereas it turns out what a woman knows, in this case Evie, is kind of everything about Egyptology because she's a fucking expert.
Like,
it's good. It's good to be led by her because she knows all the fucking stuff. I like this little gang of Evie, John, Brendan, and Omid Jalili as well.
It was beginning to stick out a bit like a sore thumb.
Yeah,
now, you know,
something's going to happen to him.
Something's going to happen to the guy who's going to hang Brendan Fraser in the last scene. I don't think it'll work out well for him.
Yeah.
I kept writing down old shit for when they used the term ancient, and I thought, that's disrespectful because we use that already to describe old movies. So it's dusty old Egypt is what I'm using to describe anything ancient.
They're just rummaging around through loads of old dusty Egypt stuff. And the naughty Americans, they find a sarcophagus. And with Jalili, he's sneaking around stealing these gems/stones that you see, but it turns out he needs to get back because they've got beetles in them and they are...
See, I was going to make a great reference about how it looks like he's got that thing that Neo has in the Matrix and he needs to get it removed. But
he's had a hard day's night here, mate, because
you invoke Peter Jackson one more time. I am reviewing The Hobbit with you, and that is that. So tread carefully now.
Right, but it turns out they're beetles. One goes up his trousers, which I thought was quite funny, but then it goes all up in his body, which was very The Matrix. Genuinely horrifying. It goes all in his face and everything.
It's basically this point they realise that, oh yeah, this big cursed city of the dead, surprisingly, got a bit of kind of curse vibe to it, isn't it? You know? They're looking around and they see the sarcophagus of someone they claim to be he who shall not be named.
Voldemort is buried down there.
You know, Sauron, innit? It's Sauron.
Yeah.
People are, fuck on Sauron. And it's not because it's like you can't say his name because everyone's just sick of him, you know? The Third Age, don't get me fucking started on the Third Age. Bloody Sauron, I hate you. Don't bother. You shouldn't bother naming. That's who he is.
Very sadly, Omid's dead. He was running around with a face full of beetles. I wonder if someone around 1999 had this cool beetle inside your body special effect that they were just selling en masse to all the studios because it is.
Everyone was doing it. I feel I've seen this a gajillion times. Yeah.
It's a real preset that you can buy on, Envato Elements or something. Download. It's niche.
So the baddies who aren't actually baddies show up, and you should have realised at this point that they're not really the baddies because these poor souls who are both gunless and dynamiteless go up against people who very much have both, and it's just kind of like sad. They show up like, bleh, and they get shot at loads, and then they're like, can you leave, please?
Please
There's not many of us left. There'll be no one left to warn you anymore.
Yeah, the Magi just said, come on, guys. Get out of here. We're warning you one last time. Leave, please. But the Americans have already opened... so the Americans opened up a sarcophagus and it was full of, booby trap acid.
It's pressurized acid salt, they said, which I'm not sure if that's a thing or not, but it didn't look nice.
The Americans didn't really open it up. They got, I think some locals they were with.
It's
a bit horrible,
the locals.
So, in response to this, Evie and Brendan and John are all just hanging out, getting pissed. Fair enough, I say. Falling in love. Evie does a very funny, what is a place like me doing in a girl like this line, which is, that's good drunk writing, That's a bit of fun to convey that she's had a bit much.
Very accurate.
Yes.
Often misplaced words for comedic effect when I'm drunk as well. But look, they're here for one reason. It's not to drink and it's not to be in love. They're here to fucking crack open some caskets. They're here to crack into them. And let me tell you, when they crack into Imhotep's casket, oh my God, he was all oily and hairy and juicy like a big Slim Jim. It was disgusting.
He was pretty yucky looking, but he was still kind of not intact. I don't think you could describe him as intact, but not just a bag of bones, He was still fresher than you would expect.
He looked like a composition of all of Tapenade made flesh, is what he really looked like.
Yes.
And they come across the Book of the Dead, which they immediately start reading from, which, if you're going to casually read from anything, the Book of the Dead, that'll be low on the list for me, That'll be one that I would say, I will read that, and it'll be on the shelf for a few years, won't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sell it then,
I want people to know that I've read the Book of the Dead, but I don't actually want to read the Book of the Dead. I'll pop it up there so people can see it on the shelf. She nicks it from the Americans, who nicked it from a box. Also, the box on the outside said, "Death will come on swift wings to whoever opens this chest," and they were just like, "Now we're having it. In we go." So yeah, they're reading the book, which from the sounds of things has fucked everything up.
All sorts of curses. We get locust curses.
Yeah.
Which, right, look, I know locusts aren't pleasant. Okay, they're not pleasant. And I am a big fan of invertebrates, but I will admit that locusts have at least partially earned their rotten reputation.
Yeah.
But it's good to know the relative power of a locust, because when the locusts come, your man in the fez, he was looking after all the diggers, he's just like, oh, that's it, game over, and he sits down, like, you know, he's like, you'll still be there, like, go back and get him. You'll still
game over, lads.
Dusty and covered in bugs, like, you know.
What
the worst case scenario for him is going.
While everyone is running away, the Americans appear to have been hanging out with, is it Velma from Scooby-Doo? Because one of them falls over. It's like, my glasses! Scrambling around, trying to find his glasses.
He finds beetles instead, Sam.
He's in the dark with the undead and can't see shit. That is actually pretty horrifying.
Oh yeah, there was definite pearl here for these lads as well. I was not the greatest fan of the Foley in this movie, as I mentioned earlier, but what I was a very big fan of was the audio description subtitles I got when I was streaming this, and because the word they used to describe the movement of the beetles was skittling, which I thought was a very good word.
They were skittling, weren't they?
Skittling about.
Skittling. It's got an onomatopoeic quality to it, skittling. You know, it's not an onomatopoeic word, but it's skittling. It's
got a bounciness to it. I like it very, very much.
Lovely.
And look, what we see next is probably the money shot for them in terms of them flexing their CG muscles, because we do get to see Imhotep slightly regenerated, coming out of that form, going from, how to describe this? He was a big Slim Jim, okay, that had been pulled out of its tube.
Yeah.
One time when I was in university, I got my favourite bar in the world, which is a toffee crisp.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, it had been subject to a manufacturing error, Sam. So when I opened it up, it was inside out. It was like a solid block of caramel and chocolate surrounded by the dusty, crispy interior on the outside. And I was trying to explain this to Jo the other night, and she couldn't really grasp what I was saying. But when your man showed up, I thought, hey, there he is now. There he is now. That's the man. There's the inside out toffee crisp. And I wouldn't mind taking a bite out of him if you don't mind me saying so.
He's nicked the tongue and eyes of the guy who was scrambling around for his glasses. If I was going to nick the eyes from someone, wouldn't be the lad scrambling around for his glasses, because the glasses got smashed. So can Imhotep see very well now?
He's got one eye, I think. You know?
Didn't he nick I thought he nicked this guy's eyes to like pop him, or was he just being a bastard? He's nicked his tongue. But
he takes everyone's eyes. It's not that he has like 9 eyes at the end of the movie. He takes everyone's eyes and tongue and all their ooze as well. So
he's very scary as a inside out toffee crisp.
It honestly, it looked way better than anything from 1999 I'd seen.
It looks pretty good. He's kind of getting close to Evie. So Brendan Fraser shotguns Imhotep.
Oh, and he does this really cool thing. Very cool. This is when I was like, oh, he is Nathan Drake, basically. When Imhotep goes, bleh, and then he just goes, ah, right back at him. That was so funny. I laughed my ass off.
Yeah.
Great.
Shotguns him, and he, as far as Brendan's concerned, job done. There, I got him. Shotgunned him right in the middle.
They're like, oh, you've unleashed the ancient curse. He's like, no, I've not. I've shot the ancient curse, mate.
Shot the fuck out of him.
Done.
Very American approach and attitude there. You know, I fucking shot him. It's done, mate.
Yeah, but did you dual wield? Did you really shoot him? Did you really shoot him? Did you dual wield? That's what I want to know. So the baddies are pretty much like, I keep calling them the baddies, even though they're revealed to be absolutely not the baddies.
Yes.
The Magi are like, well, we're pretty much fucking boned now.
Yeah.
And Benny, we see back in the temple, he's cornered and he starts kind of going through various religions to see if anything will work.
That's funny.
He's reckoning, you know, that was funny.
Yeah.
And when he speaks Hebrew and shows the Star of David, Imhotep is like, oh, this guy's done his fucking Egypt 101. The Pharaoh and the Jewish slaves. So he's like, great, slaves, I'll give you trinkets.
There we go. And you'll be able to communicate for me, I guess. Is the thing.
Is this guy definitely a mummy? I don't think that the slaves got trinkets back in the day. I guess he's a priest, not a pharaoh. So,
I don't know how it works. But we're in Cairo now.
This is where they go, we can't stop the mummy because he can't be harmed by your mortal weapons.
Yeah.
And then they go, and they says deadly seriously, let's find some immortal weapons.
I mean, look.
What?
Right, we're talking about American and British attitude. That's a British can-do. Let's find a solution, lads. Come on. We'll find some immortal weapons then, and we'll get that mummy. We've got to get the job done.
Let's get around the table. Let's get some immortal weapons. Let's get over the line.
Brendan Fraser's like, I shotgunned him. It didn't work. I'm getting out of here. You can stay if you want. Peace. I'm out.
I think he just wants an immortal shotgun and is using this whole curse thing as an excuse. We meet one of my favourite characters, which is Winston, which is basically like a kind-hearted Wario crossed with Winston Churchill, crossed with Porco Rosso. And at this point, I was like, do you really need 2 drunks for your adventure? Yes, you fucking do, because Winston's the man.
Winston's great. Winston's just introduced, I think, literally to fly a plane later on, and for no other real reason. But he's a fun character.
You need the second drunk for the adventure, I think.
Yes.
This is what they're trying to say. And you might think, oh, Tintin, they only had 1 drunk for their adventure in Captain Haddock. No, Snowy was fucked up the whole goddamn time. The only thing that Snowy put in his body was vodka during most of Tintin's original adventures. That's why he remained silent about the racism. He was smashed.
Meanwhile, Benny is fully working for Imhotep now. They're in like a hotel room or something.
He's fully working. Are you playing like he's gone past his like probationary period?
He's past the probation. He's working for him now. They're chatting with the fucking lad who's got his eyes and tongue ripped out. Well, I say chatting, he can't do much because his tongue's gone. And Imhotep's just like, well, you've served some of your purpose, but I am going to need to kind of absorb you, or like, what does he do? He just kind of removes all the flesh,
all the fluid from his body, basically.
Yeah.
So his organs are all being kept in the sacred jars.
Right.
He needs them back, but also all the people who broke into the temple, he has to kill them all.
Yeah.
And take their eyes and their tongue and all their fluids. But he's also told Benny that he doesn't need to do him. So I'm not really sure what type of a curse this is. Is this like some sort of flexitarian curse where you can kind of opt in
Pick and
or
choose.
opt out of not all the fluid or eyes,
Right.
but yeah.
But he's getting stronger every time he kills one of these American lads.
Yes, I wrote down that he is slowly re-meeting, and you did not reply to my email or the meeting or the re-meeting.
Very good. Can I say that and the Porco Rosso comparison? Very good, top drawer stuff.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
That's been Cinema Swell.
That's your loss.
Brendan, once again, just tries to shoot Imhotep.
I think he just likes shooting his gun, Sam.
He loves shooting his gun. But I tell you what works a treat, a cat on a piano. And we know this from viral videos. And we now also know this from The Mummy. You pop a cat on a piano, it's going to get a reaction. From most people, that reaction is, that's fun. From Imhotep, it's like, fucking hell. No, thank you.
A cat on a piano for a mummy is like as if the mummy was a cucumber for the cat. Not a good time.
Yes.
Immediate reaction. The cat literally makes Imhotep do the spin from the mask. It's like, somebody stop me. He zips on out of there, probably to the Coco Cabana to meet a hot babe.
Yes. Oh, by the way, we get proper like George Lucas wipes throughout this film between cuts, which is always fun.
There's something about it, because it reminds you of Tatooine. If you get a wipe on a desert planet, it's a nod to old GL himself. But Imhotep is in a regrettable position now because he literally has to kill and suck to survive.
Yes, he does. He called Evie the name of his dead mistress or whatever, the dead girlfriend from the past. Called Evie that name, I think, and tried to kiss her. I started theorising, because Evie earlier on is like, oh, my mother is an Egyptian.
Oh, an Egyptian adventurer, yeah.
I thought she might be like descended from her or something. There's some kind of connection there. I don't think it's that. I think he just needs a nice lady to sacrifice.
Yeah, I thought it was just a body, because it seemed to me that he had the soul of her, but he was going to try and put it into her body. But he also just seemed like he was genuinely confused, which, in fairness, if I accidentally oversleep, I'm a little bit confused the next morning. I could only imagine what it'd be like if you're in the process of that and a re-meeting as well. So,
yes.
So Evie's basically put in her room, and she's like, you bally well better not put me in my room. But they put her in her room because they want to keep her safe.
Absolute flim-flam. Yes, they want to keep her safe. Brendan and Jonathan, who, John, I would argue, keep him in the room, lock him away. But Brendan's concerned because Imhotep's got a bit of an interest in Evie. He's like, right, lock her in a room. Nothing can go wrong there. They're off to go and find, is it an Egyptologist fella? They have to go back.
Yes, they wanted to find the more senior Egyptologist.
Yes.
And the mummy is still Imhotep, the mummy is still attacking other people.
Yeah.
But, of course, as I was shorthanding my notes here, I wrote down, oh no, Mum got another.
Mum got loads. Mum kept getting them.
Mum got loads this time.
Yeah.
He killed and sucked. Mum killed, Mum sucked. She did what she had to do.
Absolutely.
Also, Imhotep has got a long mouth, hasn't he?
Oh, he's got a big long mouth. He could do a good surprised face. Very cool shadow on the back of a wall shot of him, removing the essence from someone and draining them of all their fluids and flesh.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. That's a good way to disguise the fact that doing that in CGI and just seeing it straight up would maybe look a bit hokey.
And yeah, it's funny because the more he gets re-meated, it's I think like an hour and 20 into the movie where it's like, all right, he's normal now. That's enough of that. You get a couple of long mouths, but you've had your inside out toffee crisp man for I need a toffee crisp really fucking badly now. I can't talk about it anymore.
He's pretty much back to full strength. And he sneaks into Evie's room and kisses her. And I don't know if you've been kissed with a long mouth, but it doesn't feel nice. Doesn't look nice.
No, but I love this interaction where Rick comes in and says, "Get your ugly face off of her," and he turns around, Imhotep, and goes, "Yeah."
But then, but Brendan in response basically does the same thing back, but with a cat. Just goes, "Ah," and just gestures a cat at him. That works.
So they figured out now from the Egyptologist,
yes,
that the books were basically swapped, and they need the Book of Life to undo the curse of the Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
But because the curse is moving on now, and if you don't know your scripture, the next part is that everyone is his slave now, which I would have thought in a more modern telling of this story, an element of sadness might have been brought with this, or an element of, I don't know, conflict within the emotions of people, knowing now that everyone in this town is a slave to the will of the mummy against their own will. But instead, because it's 1999, this basically means that anyone in a turban who's not in their group is fair game to be shot and killed, and shot and killed and killed and shot.
Yes. But that said, there is a little bit of a funny, almost Shaun of the Dead-like bit where John's trying to run to get to the car.
Oh, they're all chanting Imhotep.
And to blend in, he mumbles it as well to get by. A little bit of fun. I think, it swings and roundabouts in it,
No, you can't go and mock them and then kill them. That's not fair at all. Honestly, the zombies in Shaun of the Dead were treated with more humility than these people are.
So Imhotep's got his big army of everyone in town now. A gang are trying to get away, but the slaves are blocking the road.
Oh, only one way to get through, Sam. Light them up, boys!
Driving and shooting through them.
They're only holding torches and saying Imhotep. That's all they're doing.
But what? One of the Americans manages to get grabbed off the car and chucked over, runs out of bullets, and this guy, again, gets fully Imhotep'd. But that time, rather than a shadow thing, we get a close-up on Benny's face as this lad is getting, murdered. And I thought
I don't like that.
I thought that was very effective. And it reminded me a little bit, and this is a wrestling reference, of AJ Styles' debut in the Royal Rumble, where we just stay on Roman Reigns' face as the music plays and it's revealed who it is. So you don't see the big reveal, which a lot of people don't like. I thought that was actually quite cool. That's my little bit of wrestling stuff there.
As far as obvious production errors go, it's a pretty good one. Yeah.
One of the cool production errors. I quite like it. So Imhotep, he's calling the group.
And he's like, look, come here to me, Evie. Would you be me wife now, and I'll spare the rest of these lads here?
And you know what? Well, I was going to say, you know what? Fair enough. But
fair, he's laying it out. That's the deal.
They've not really got much else to go on here. So she goes with him, and then pretty much as soon as he's got a hand and he's leading her away, she's like, right, lads, kill all of those pricks, would you? It's quite funny. And I thought that was going to be a bigger, more dramatic scene when you've got the whole army versus our little gang of people. But they just kind of go down a big hole in the floor at this point to get away.
Yeah, it's very much like an on the rails. Wow, like that's the thing about this movie is that they don't spend much time other than that initial bit of journey. Like once they're there, it's like we're fucking skating around from place to place. So we have them regrouping with Winston. Yes. And I do love a good biplane, let me tell you. And I enjoyed a biplane over the desert in the 20s. That's cool.
Give me that, please. Thank you. A rickety old plane. I don't actually want to get on it, but I want to see this happen.
Why is it a biplane in a desert is so much more cool than a giant mechanical spider in a desert? I don't know why that is. Like, one should be cooler than the other, but I'm pretty sure I prefer the biplane.
And if you'd like to hear us talk about a giant mechanical spider in the desert, head on over to patreon.com/cinemaswell, where we reviewed Wild Wild West. I agree with you. It really suits the desert, doesn't it, a biplane?
Yeah.
It feels right.
It's the only time it's appropriate to wear a scarf in the desert, I'm pretty sure, Sam.
And he got the old-fashioned flying goggles and everything and the little hat.
He's not in it much, but Winston does go out of his way to say that he's mad bored since the end of World War I, because basically all of his mates died, and now he's just kind of bumming around Egypt, being all drunk, because he's obviously been passed over for the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So even though him going on what appears to be a suicide run here, because the Mummy does one of his special summons, it's a sand apocalypse, which basically turns a wall of sand into the corner of the album cover for Pink Floyd's The Wall. And then the guy in the plane is like, oh no, remember when the Nostalgia Critic reviewed that? And he's dead.
You know what? I think it's quite nice that for that character, who basically comes in as a drunk man, says, as you mentioned, I was in the war, all my mates died, I wish I could have died in a blaze of glory, but now I'm just bumming around getting drunk. For then him to die doing something heroic is a nice little simple character wrap-up for a character we only see in 2 scenes. And it's just a nice little... He gets a little arc. Even that little character gets a little arc.
A nice little bow on it at the end, I thought. He dies like a champ and sinks into quicksand. No cleanup! No cleanup.
No, exactly. Great. Gone. How do you feel about the big wall of sand and the big dust face thing, CGI-wise? Pretty good.
It looks really good. Yeah. Honestly, the sand effects were the best CG that the movie had to offer. I think that would probably be the only type of effects that you could show that still would stand up the test of time. Like, I think you could cut together some footage of that and show it to someone who's
still pretty good.
They would still think it's pretty good, even by modern standards, I would say.
Even Benny says a line which is like, I love the whole sand wall trick. It was beautiful. I'm like, it you know what, Benny? It was.
Perks of the job, Benny. Good job for making it through the probation.
Yeah. Quicksand. Always good to see quicksand. Thank you, quicksand. Always thought that would be more of a threat. But it's nice to see a bit of quicksand.
I mean, I feel I've been very negative on quicksand for most of my life, which is like based on absolutely nothing, other than just a general bad vibe I get from quicksand. But I hadn't thought, like, if you were, if I was to be killed or whatever it is.
If you just then sink away.
You needed my body out of there as quick as possible. Do you think that happens? Like, people, like, where there's quicksand near them, they go and they do fly tipping and stuff like that. Like, maybe there is quicksand here in Sulphur, but I just can't see it because people have, like, used it all up.
Lobbing their sofa out of the car.
Full of dog shit now. Sorry, no more quicksand. There's a tree has grown because of all the dog shit you've put into it. Sad.
So now they're back where they were before. Pilot's dead, and fucking John, who again I think should be locked in that room and left there, picks up one of the beetle things that killed Omid.
Have you been paying attention, John?
A fool.
Fucking lush.
And so Brendan has to actually cut it out of his body. And then it gets cut out of his body, and then Brendan shoots it. And something about shooting a beetle is funny.
Didn't like that. Like that. You've already stabbed him and chucked him out of his home. You don't need to shoot him because he made a EQ noise. He went and then he shot him.
Yeah.
It was a very dehumanizing moment for Brendan Fraser as a person and a character in this movie, I thought.
I don't think it's good, but something about the bluster of shooting an insect, I think is inherently quite funny that you would do that.
The thing about it is, right, Beatles, I love seeing Beatles. Yeah. I love watching footage of Beatles. I've got a big book of Beatles. I like to thumb through it. But if a Beatle came into my room right now, I'd be fucking looking for the nearest weapon. Because they're fucking massive and scary.
So our gang have made it to the treasure trove, and oh boy, there's a lot of treasure.
That's a big prize zone, Sam. How many tickets do I got to win for this?
You can dive into that treasure and swim around. Like, who's the rich duck character who does that? Scrooge McDuck. Beautiful treasure here. But unfortunately, all of Imhotep's priests of rising from the
I
dead.
called him his bonelings.
His bonelings.
And it's great. As soon as the bonelings show up and they're like, we are the bonelings. Line them up, boys. Great stuff. This was great. I love this.
Really satisfying.
Get rid of all the booze prohibition shit this was.
Just fun sequence of these lads shooting the fuck out of a bunch of skelly bobs. Good stuff. Very fun. Bang, 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 bang. Enjoyed it. But meanwhile, Evie has been got and she's about to be sacrificed to bring back Imhotep's girlfriend. Not good.
No.
That's
a red flag, Sam.
Oh, the gang are joined by one of the guys from the Magi who seems to go down fighting, trying to get them a chance to escape. He gets kind of swarmed by, what did he call them? Bonelings. He gets swarmed by bonelings. So that's very sad. The resurrection ritual reviving thing / sacrifice is about to happen, but John Hannah comes in with the magic book.
Oh!
But he doesn't know how to open the book or indeed read the book.
But Rick's got a magic sword, and let me tell you, that sword was such a stereotypical, the hero gets the sword at the end. Big gold sword, looked like it's made out of cheese. It was great.
This film kind of leans into some cliches because it knows they're fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, it's just a big silly cliche, this.
Brendan smacking these bonelings around while the camera kind of spins round him. Very satisfying. All of the action in this film, the whole way through, has been very well choreographed and is fun and good.
And you notice as well, action's almost always fun.
Yeah.
But not many quips. And still managed to be fun. It's not like he stops every 5 seconds where he's like, but you should drink milk because you're made of bones. And none of that shit, But instead, we do get a nice little callback to his scream bit earlier because there's a big group of the bonelings and he goes, and then they all scream back way louder at him and he's like, oh.
One of the bonelings, his head comes off and he's kind of bobbing it around in his own hand, the boneling, and then Brendan smacks it out of his hand like a baseball and hits a bloody home run.
Beautiful.
I don't need no quips when you're doing that kind of stuff.
This was all fantastic action. I thought it was just long enough for it to be exhilarating without it going on into tedium or anything like that. We have John trying to read out the book in ancient Egyptian, which is fun to hear him say all those dusty old words. And then he manages to cast a spell. Imhotep is mortal. He gets stabbed, and it's great. He reacts like that guy that we like getting eliminated from Bake Off. He's like, what? Oh. And then he sits down. It's great.
I mean, the bit where he gets made mortal, there was some real weird CGI stuff going on there. Because he goes all like...
That was probably the worst CG shot of the whole movie, I thought.
It looked really weird and ropey.
Big PS2 cutscene energy for me.
Yeah, and then gets dunked into that weird black CGI water. And just said, the death is only the beginning, lads. See you in a bit. Bye.
What's that? A mad dash to the exit, you say?
Oh,
that
yes,
the place
please.
is falling apart? What? No. An art tomb? How many of the pyramids went that way, I wonder, where someone went in, explored, and got all the treasure, and they're like, well, you've gotten the treasure, now it's going to self-destruct you 30 seconds to leave. And I imagine that I'd say at least 5 or 6 of them went down that way.
Probably, I think so. And, it's an interesting reflection on greed, because Benny's there as well, and he's loading up his bag with jewels and gold and prizes.
And they're special precious jewels and gold because it goes... like it's fucking, I don't know, an app you're about to spend a lot of heavy coinage on.
Yeah, it's trying to trick you into making more in-app
purchases. Trying to trick you. Oh, it's a nice noise.
Yeah. Our core gang managed to get out, like sliding under, big heavy stone doors that are coming down, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the bit where Benny is like just about to come out. Like, while it was happening, I was like, this is like equally going to be satisfying if he escapes or if he gets crushed. Because either way, I'm excited for the action of this smooth stone mass.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Oh, yeah, like that.
But he didn't get crushed, nor did he get out. He's trapped in the treasure trove with a bunch of fucking horrible beetles.
Death via skittering. Not very good.
Destined to listen to Maxwell's Silver Hammer forever. That's the last one.
Okay.
So Benny's gone. Our gang are out. The Magi guy, who we thought died, still alive. And he's like...
Great. He's happy as can be. Happy as a clam. He says, you know what? You've earned the respect of our people, even though you were gutting us down in our thousands.
You were gutting us down. You fucked up. You released the thing we told you not to release that we've spent years of our lives trying to stop.
Fair fucks.
But you did get out. and he's dead now. So good.
And a bonus, they get a blessing from Allah. What? That's nice.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Not so bad.
Yeah.
They don't just throw those around, I'm sure.
And we get a lovely on-screen kiss from Brendan and Evie, and then John Hannah tries to kiss a camel, which is a bit of light-hearted fun because he sees that they're kissing. He's like,
because he's loveless. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
and
good.
Off they go on camels, riding off literally into the sunset.
And they've got a little bit of treasure as well, don't worry, folks.
Yes. This film likes its cliches, it leans into them, but it has fun with them. The end, The Mummy. Oh, that was fun. That was fun.
A fucking romp, wasn't it?
It was a real romp. I'm going to say something controversial.
Come at me with your controversy.
I think you can see this coming. That's better than Indiana Jones. That is... It just is. It just is.
And it looks like that Generation X stopped listening to our podcast. The end.
I had a lot of fun with that. That was really great.
But like, I don't know if I'm just kind of inventing this in my head because, you know, there were a lot of like movies like this that would get watched, you know. Yeah, I talk about we watch movies at university with groups of people and all that. Oh, I better go pop this on, or we're hungover, put on something simple and dumb. And this movie never ever really kind of came up. And I'm wondering if it's because the sequels kind of garnered a bit of bad publicity.
Right.
Me as a wrestling fan, they were kind of intertwined with the fate of the Scorpion King and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But Jesus Christ, on its own here, The Mummy is... I feel dumb as hell that it took me another... Let me think. 1999 this came out, so I would have got on video in 2000. So it has been 22 years since I saw this movie. And the fact that I didn't see it 20 times between now and then is baffling to me.
Yeah.
I cannot explain why. And if you're at home thinking, oh, this is some 90s shite that is best left in the past. Yeah, it is excessive, but my God almighty, like they're cliches for a reason. This is fucking, you could fall asleep in this and wake up and still have a good time.
Yes. It has some interesting lore stuff in it, but it's not overly complicated. All of the performances were great and fun.
And shockingly, a lot less racist than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Still a bit, but no one near what I thought it would be.
The music is great, by the way. It's music that serves the film enough that you don't really need to talk about the music, but the music delivers what you need.
Good classic shit, like. And, you know, I think they did do a good job at... They managed to redefine what was honestly a very, very silly and an outlier in the classic monster lineup.
Yeah.
I think this made folks think of it a little bit differently via the medium of a very, very dumb movie. But curse stuff was great, all the fucking suspense. It was dark without being, miserable.
Nope.
It was lighthearted without being
goofy.
Kind of, too flimsy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Brendan Fraser again. My God, that man deserves a fucking round of applause. Good on him.
Great performance. Perfectly suited this role. Pulled it off. This film is visually great. The effects, obviously some of them don't stand up now, but they're pretty fucking impressive for the time.
There's a couple that are still good, and nothing is so bad that it's like that last shot, maybe we were saying that's pretty fucking rough.
Yeah, but
again, 22 years old, not so bad, in terms of CGI,
Cinematography, really nice. All of these big action scenes pulled off brilliantly, filmed really well. I'm struggling to think of complaints about this. I'll say that.
I mean, there is a tiny part of you that kind of would think, because it is so, standard issue, I guess, is a way you could maybe describe it. You're not going to be surprised watching this movie at all. It doesn't really, in 2022, have anything up its sleeve, let's just say. But nothing wrong with that,
It's very clearly absorbed a lot of, stuff from big adventure films. There's some Star Wars in this. There's some Indiana Jones in this. There's a bunch of other stuff in this. And they've found what works and put it into a fun action-adventure film. It is fun. It's just a fun film. Fun film to put on.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm just thinking now of all the shit that we're going to have to see if we do this. We're doing this Mummy remake, aren't we? I'm just imagining Tom Cruise in a movie that any footage of it I see looks like a fucking Dan Brown movie adaptation. So I'm not looking forward to it.
Just remember all this stuff of us saying how fun this was.
Yes.
And just contrast that with how we respond to Mummy 2017.
You took Highlander from me. I'm taking the Mummy from you.
Oh.
Take it right away.
But try not to think about that. I had a great time with the Mummy.
You had a great time with the Mummy?
Yeah.
The only question I've got left to ask then, Sam, is what's your star wipe rating for the Brendan Fraser, the Mummy?
4.5 star wipes.
Oh, you heard it here first.
Oh, thanks for listening to another episode of Cinema Swirl. This episode was produced by Kevin, edited by me, Sam, and I also did the music. If you want to support the show, then patreon.com/cinemaswirl is the way to go. If you want to follow us on the socials, we're at CinemaSwirl on Twitter and facebook.com/CinemaSwirl on Facebook, which is where our votes for episodes take place. If you've got questions, queries, comments, or anything else for the mailbag, then send it on over to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Please do keep recommending the show to your friends if you think they'll like it, or even if you don't think they'll like it, just recommend it anyway. Oh, and if there are any bits in recent episodes that you think would make particularly nice video clips, you know, the kind of thing we've had on our socials recently, then send us a tweet and let us know. Alright, we'll see you next time. Cheers, bye!